Good morning, everybody, and very warm welcome to committee members to the second meeting in 2024 of the Audit and Risk Subcommittee. As is normal practice, if I can ask Councillor Philo to lead us in the karakia, which we can all say because it's on our papers and on the screen in front of us. So, thank you, Councillor Philo.
Me inoi tātou, whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, e hiaki ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei mauri ora.
Kia ora, thank you. Right, agenda item 2, apologies. We have no apologies, but I do want to note that Councillor Tracy Johnston has a leave of absence for this meeting today. There have been no requests for public participation for this meeting. Agenda item 4, conflicts of interest. Always important to stop and just consider this point. Has anybody got any conflicts of interest, anything they want to draw our attention to for the agenda today? There being none, thank you, I appreciate that. Agenda item 5, notification of extraordinary business. And we have no items on the agenda or that are not on the agenda that have been received under this category. Agenda item 6, the confirmation of minutes. Our last meeting was the 14th of March and the minutes are in the papers. Does anybody have any corrections to those minutes, please? Silence is assent, so I will move that the minutes of the meeting held on the 14th of March 2024 a correct record of that meeting. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Trillin. Moved and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, carried. Right, agenda item 7.1, health and safety. We've been asked to note this report, so I'm happy to move that we note the health and safety report for the 3-month period ending 31st of March 2024, seconded by Councillor Duncan. We'll open it up for discussion, and to start it off, if I can ask Sam to come to the table, please, and just introduce us. That's the normal situation. Sam, take your very excellent report as being read, but just highlight and update any points you wish us to be aware of. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Through the Chair, Morena Koto. I will take the document as read and highlight a few key things before I can open up for questioning. Incidents are remaining at that stable level for this reporting period compared to previous quarters. There hasn't been a great deal of difference beyond the threatening behaviour incidents, which are up this reporting quarter. Like many previous quarters, it does not surprise the least bit that is going up. You hear constantly about threatening behaviour across the motu, whether it be Countdown investing $10 million to help support their staff with regards to threatening behaviour, or the likes across the board. So we are continuing to look into that. For instance, it's not in this report, but it will be in the subsequent one about a risk assessment that we conducted for threatening behaviour with our frontline staff who are subjected to this sort of risk, to help inform whether our controls are appropriate to either eliminate the risk or minimise it so far as is reasonably practicable. The final thing to update you on is we have seen an increase in the training space. There's been a good reporting quarter for training, especially in the induction, to ensure that all of our new staff come in are fully aware about what the expectations are when working at Porirua City. But we're also starting to see more of our contractors coming through that space too, as part of fulfilling our duties in the overlapping duties space, to ensure that our contractors are a lot more aware about our own health and safety practices, but also that our staff are regularly engaging with our contractors in regards to any safety issues that might be happening out while they're doing work on our behalf. But I think I can stop there. Thanks, Chair, and happy to take questions.
Thank you, Sam. Open for discussion. Councillor Trillin.
Kia ora, thank you very much. I've got some follow-up questions relating to the breathing issues at the arena. I've been contacted by Viv Morton, the president of Porirua City Aquatics, and she mentioned that recently the problem appears to have been getting worse. A number of senior swimmers have been not managing to finish sessions consistently in the afternoons, and they've shifted some of their morning training sessions through to Cannons Creek because of those breathing issues as well. I wonder if you could just give us an update around what's happening in that space.
Thanks, Councillors. Through the Chair, yes, we have seen a bit of a spate in that recently over the last few months, still primarily with the PCA club members. As part of our work with them, we've been undertaking additional assessments. Most recently was a smoke test, again, just to see whether the air is working as it should be. By and large, it has been, and it backs up the report that we did last year about the equipment that we have in that space is working effectively. However, there have been identified some pockets of dead air in the corners of the facility. Whether or not it's contributing to the breathing issues is still a bit up in the air, but that is part of our work to try and assess whether or not we have turned over all of the different stones that may be contributing to this particular thing. As part of that, the property team have also looked at implementing additional things. So again, the problem is down to airflow, whether we're getting enough air into the facility to be able to extract enough air out. As we all know, the bad air that tends to congregate in these swimming pools. And hopefully many of you will remember the health and safety site visit that you all taken on and explained about how it all works over there. So that's our current problem, and it is currently still isolated to the PCA club at the moment, but it is something that we are looking at. A lot of time and effort has been spent in this space to try and figure this thing out, and we're still working with the club about this sort of thing, with that overlapping duty to ensure that they're as engaged in the process as much as possible. But it's certainly something that hasn't been solved yet, but we're still working our way through all of the different things that might be left.
Cool, thank you very much. And on that as well, thank you for helping facilitate that site visit. I found it really useful going in and having an actual look. So I wonder if, and I don't know if I just missed it in the report and didn't see it. I know in a previous report there had been a specific breakdown that looked particularly at the number of breathing-related complaints we got from the arena. I think they were amalgamated in this one. I just think it would be useful, particularly as this is an ongoing issue, if we could have that pulled out separately just so we can track that trend. But really glad to hear that, that some work is proactively being done around that. Thank you.
Councillor Duncan.
Thanks for the report. Just a small thing, but on all of the times when we have grand totals, they're always referred to as grant totals, and I don't quite understand it. If that could change, I'd be really appreciative of that. Page 21, under the injuries heading, it refers to 2 proactive intervention injuries. What are they? How is it a proactive intervention if it's actually happened as an injury?
Right in the middle of page 21. Attachment 1.
Oh, through the Chair, you're speaking about the Wellington Water?
Yeah, sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to follow up on that one. Generally, when it's proactive, it is before an incident happens.
Yeah.
But mostly what we're seeing is an incident happening, but then proactive steps are being taken after that for other potential incidents that may occur. But I will follow up on that one just to confirm.
Good on you. And a follow-on from that, when the workers have struck a 400-volt cable, surely they knew that was there. Were they aware it was there? Can you find that for us as well?
I can follow up on that one as well. From my conversation with Chris, the health and safety manager there, it did seem that it was one of those ones that the tree had grown a little bigger, and while the lines were still there, whether or not they did the know before you dig process, but I can follow up.
Thanks.
Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. The threatening behaviour incidents is where you say you've been working with staff on, what they can do. Have you thought about working with councillors? Because we're going to stamp our plan, and it's already very hot out there at the moment, I have to say. Had you thought about doing anything with us?
Through the chair, really good question. We had engaged Democratic Services some months ago as we were starting the LTP process, and I'll need to follow up with Jack on what might have been done. I believe we were wanting to organise a de-escalation training of some sort for councillors, given the nature of the environment at the moment, but I will follow up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Major concern. Councillor Leggett.
I'm just following up on the breathing incidents. Do you gather whether those people that are affected by breathing or report breathing incidents, whether they're actually the same people every time, or are they different people?
Through the chair, really good question. 95% of them are the same.
Okay, that's something. I just as a general comment there, when we were in Australia at Blacktown and went to their pool and we went in, the atmosphere was really quite interesting and overpowering. And yet, when we asked them the question about incidents, they said they didn't have any. Just neither here nor there. Obviously, we do have them there. And the only other thing I want to point out is it may be a mistake or it may be me reading it properly. 2, summary of incidents. Do your statistics correlate with the graph? I'm not sure that they do. You don't have to say anything about it now if you just have a look. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Sam, can I ask a comment? If you do on that first page look at the graph over the 4 quarters for threatening behaviour, it shows sort of quite a steady increase, and all signs are that that's probably going to continue. And I'd congratulate you on the training achievement in that space. But are you working with other organisations, other sector members, and sort of gathering some collective wisdom as to how to deal with this and how to be ready for a possible escalation?
Through you, Chair. We engage regularly with other councils who themselves are in this space also, but also there's a national forum that many health and safety managers are a part of through the New Zealand Institute of Safety Managers, where we all share what we're collectively doing as well, and that's where the countdown initiatives kind of came through also, and what they're doing and how they're doing it. So it is a really present threat at the moment for staff across the country, but no, we do a lot of overlapping work with others.
Sam, it's interesting. Well, it's interesting to me that it seems to be sort of concentrated within the pool, within the arena. Other pool owners, other councils finding the same sort of thing? It's predominantly manifesting itself in the pool?
Through the chair, not necessarily. The uniqueness of I guess, some of our users of our pool are very different to some of the users of other pools, so it doesn't necessarily translate to that. But for other councils, they're getting that type of exposure in other areas, frontline reception staff, as you're going in to pay dog fees and your rates and all those sorts of things. So it's very different across them all too.
Felicity.
Just my usual question, Sam. Is there anything since this reporting period over the last couple of months that any trends or issues or things that you want to bring to our attention?
Through the chair, there are 2 things. I had anticipated your question. 2 things at the moment. The first one is we are starting to notice a fair level of stress and fatigue in staff. Very busy period. So putting in things in place to support our staff through that. One of the things that we recently did was a focus on physical well-being. Of course, there's enough evidence there to translate good physical well-being translate to good mental well-being, which then translates into less stress and fatigue, etc. So that's one area that we've been looking at. The other area is more a lot more higher level, and that's the national context. We're starting to see a lot of work happening in the WorkSafe space. Of course, they've recently had an extremely scathing review of them and our country's lack of improvement in the health and safety space. Deaths have not improved, injury rates have not improved, and their ability as a regulator has not really improved to the level that the people are asking for. So that's something that is possibly going to affect some level of change. Of course, the legislation as it is has been deemed to be quite a good piece of legislation. It's just we haven't put enough in the regulatory space to provide the level of guidance to everybody about how. We all know what we need to do as part of the new legislation, but where WorkSafe have not put enough time and effort in is how we actually do it and what good looks like. And now they're seeing a high degree of inconsistency across many sectors about how they apply health and safety in their spaces. And in one instance, there'll be WorkSafe might fine a business for doing one thing, but allow another one to kind of get away with it. So there is that challenge coming through at the moment in the national context.
Sam, it's interesting to note that those comments are supported by the graph on your page 7, our page 19, where the interactions with employee assistance programs, the work-related ones really over the last 3 quarters have been quite small in percentage terms, but this quarter's gone up to 50%. So. It'd be just interesting to note whether that becomes a sort of prevalent, sort of consistent percentage. So, I think that graph certainly supports your comments about work-related issues. Felicity.
I did have just one other question about it's our page 22, 9.4, the wastewater treatment plant, all the NRs. So is that you're just not getting any information from them?
Through the chair, the wastewater treatment plant is a very new inclusion in the report. I think the last report was the first time we've included them. So we're just on that journey about what type of information that we're after. And it is interesting to note that there wasn't much in this quarter, but they did provide context for previous quarters. So I need to follow up with our team about the information that they're sharing with us and whether it's what is being received in the other forums that they report into. We're trying to make it easy on our contractors to give us the reporting that they're already reporting on in other forums. I'll follow up with them on that one.
Okay, thank you.
All right, there doesn't appear to be any further discussion on that. Thank you again, Sam. It's been moved and seconded that we receive the report. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary carried. Thank you again, Sam. Agenda item 7.2, the first of several agenda items for Phyllis. The first one is the risk and insurance quarterly update and the plan for 24-25. So we've been asked to receive the report and approve the risk and assurance plan for 24-25, including the internal audit charter and the assurance framework. So I'm happy to move in that regard. Thank you, Councillor Philo. It's been seconded. Phyllis, thank you for your reports, plural, and normal procedure will benefit from your highlighting some points that we should be aware of. Thanks.
Morena koutou, everybody. Thank you, Chair. Just to the Chair, this report has 2 main parts. The first part is progress on this year's plan, and that's going well with just 1 audit left to complete. And in terms of follow-up on open audit items, there are no matters to highlight to this committee. Everything is progressing well in that space. In terms of the second part of the report, that's focused on the plan for next year. And this plan has been developed in consultation with management, and ELT has also had a chance to review and approve this plan. Alongside this plan, I've updated and refreshed our internal audit charter as it was due for review. This charter is aligned to good practice guidance and is important in terms for me to be able to safeguard my independence within this organization. So I appreciate the chance to bring this to this committee for their approval. ELT has also had a chance to review and approve this charter. I've introduced the assurance framework as part of the plan as well. And the assurance framework is developed to help maintain that effective internal control environment. It gives a definition about or the relationship between governance, management, and internal audit. And this would be largely used as a tool by me to help increase the maturity and understanding of the internal control environments and the assurance activities within the council. Again, as part of this plan, I've also introduced the assurance map, and that's kind of to provide visibility to ALT and this committee about the various assurance activities that are happening across the organization. And hopefully that you'll find this a helpful tool. I use it to help plan my assurance activities alongside risk information. And within that plan, it just kind of indicates previous audits that have happened, current proposed audits, as well as some indicative reviews that might be happening in future years. So I think that's all I would wish to highlight. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Phyllis. Let's take these one at a time, and so that we have a bit of structure to the discussion. So the progress on the 23-24 plan, any comments there? No? So I'd like to congratulate you, Phyllis. That was a sort of aggressive plan, if you like, and you've achieved it. That's not always done, and you've added a couple of additional items into it. So it's good to see that that's going to be achieved by the end of the month. So congratulations on that. The 24-25 plan, I think it's important to note that there's quite a change in focus, if you like, on this year's plan, in that there's less specific internal audit assignments and a little bit more flexibility to be able to react to the situation as it develops. And certainly I personally think that that's a good approach in the current environment. So any further comments, questions on the 24-25 plan? Felicity, thank you.
Just a comment that really great reports, and the plan looks very sensible, and I agree with what Warren said about allowing that capacity to respond. So I just thought these were excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Internal audit charter. Any comments, questions on that? Just to confirm, Phyllis, this is a sort of an update. Checking it back to sort of current knowledge and documents, and making sure that it's still fit for purpose. So
That's right.
all right, then the assurance framework, a good document to sort of benchmark back. Any questions, comments on that? No. Assurance map, finally. Nothing there. All right. So we can take that. That's a good piece of work. I just had one follow-up point, Phyllis, on the table of the status of internal audit findings. The first one there on that table's been around coming up to 18 months, and I just asked the question, is that ever going to be cleared? What's the situation there?
Yes, it has been cleared, actually, yeah.
It now has been cleared?
Yep.
Excellent. Wonderful. All right, any other questions, comments in this particular space? All right, so it's been moved and seconded that we receive the report and approve the risk and assurance plan for 24-25, including the internal audit charter and the assurance framework. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, carried. Thank you, Phyllis, for that. Don't move too far. Next agenda item is yours as well, the strategic risk update. Again, a really important document and exercise. We've been asked to receive the report. I'm happy to move in that direction. The Mayor's kindly second. So, Phyllis, please, brief introduction to this paper.
To the Chair again. This report is the strategic risks, and ELT does review this quite regularly, at least quarterly, and there's been a lot of focus and discussion around planning for growth as well as infrastructure, risk of infrastructure failure. Within this report, you'll see that we've introduced a new risk profile on violent attack, and I think that's quite in keeping with the report that we just heard from Sam around health and safety. There's one movement in the risk profile that ELT has put up, and that's for the major infrastructure that has moved from moderate to high, and that's just reflecting the ongoing risk to our infrastructure, the pace of renewals and investment, as well as impact on growth on our asset. So that has just pushed it up a little bit. Just reflecting our very challenging environment. So I think that's the key things to highlight in this report.
Thank you, Phyllis. Really important document. So open for discussion. Councillor Trillin.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I just had a follow-up question around the risk on the major infrastructure failure, and you'd identify this because of the current environment we're in. Is that movement we've seen in the level of risk in direct response to our new spending track and the new LTP, or is it separate to what we've just done in the LTP?
Maybe through the chair, maybe I'll answer this question. I think we're seeing is there's been movement obviously in our profile and the constraints in terms of our expenditure envelope. We've known that for a while. This is very much indicating that as we're starting to get more insight into the risks that are inherent in that plan, which potentially is, which is highlighted here around potential issues for growth, and also the ageing infrastructure and the condition assessments, some of which are not entirely conclusive. We've decided that we need to dig into this a lot more, and I know that Mike, who's not here today, and we've had discussions with Wellington Water at the ELT about having more engagement so that we can front foot this a little better, be a little bit more informed as a client, shall we say, and have that understanding and be able to articulate some of the inherent risks. I mean, it's a network, so you start mucking around with parts of the network, you're going to have other effects. And I don't think, to be fair, that anyone in this room can really articulate that fully, and I think that's something that we're really wanting to do. So Mike is setting up a series of interactions with Wellington Water for us to get a better insight to that. So there's as I'm saying, the risk has increased. We've increased the risk, I think, because in some respects we don't actually fully understand it, and I think we need to dig into it.
Cool, thank you. And so just to clarify, so it would be fair to say that this is a more accurate position as opposed to a shifted position?
I would say that was a pretty accurate way of describing it.
Cool,
Councillor.
thank you.
Councillor Duncan.
My questions relate to the executive summary, page 42. The first one is the domestic landscape there. Item 8 says non-residential consents in Porirua increased by 33%. Is that right?
Through the chair, I can answer that. At the moment, our resource consent numbers are not increasing to that extent. The datascape changeover has meant that our numbers aren't that reliable on resource consent numbers right now. So I'd prefer to come back with a revision post that transition, Mike.
Yeah, that would be good. Then moving on to the global landscape, item 2, fourth line, says it's misinformation is widely spread through media networks. Is that social media networks or just media networks? Can we not trust the media networks now either?
Well, if you follow...
Okay, we can't trust them. That's cool. Page 44, public health events, emergency event, 10 community hubs in place. I can't remember when we last had an exercise at any of these hubs. Does that occur anymore? Do we actually get together anymore on those?
Through the chair, Sam, do you want to discuss this?
Yeah.
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor Duncan. I think Remo, as part of Remo's service towards us, they aim for at least 4 workshops throughout the year. And this past year, we have had 3 community hub sessions delivered, mostly in the east, but I will follow up with Remo about next year's community hub program and the trainings that they will conduct.
Oh, good. And thanks for that. And my last question, cyber threats. Item 1 on page 48, other contributing factors include technologies being introduced to infrastructure environment. What controls do we have on the likes of Wellington Water and Veolia, who are at arm's length and double arm's length from us?
Through the chair.
Thank you, Jim.
Look, we don't have a view on that. I mean, they're using, what I do know is that they're using standard telemetry technologies, which would, and they have their own security environment. And I do know from looking at the landscape of their technology map that the security area wasn't one area of concern in terms of their what's been upgraded and all those sorts of things. I think what introduces risk more broadly into networks is when you start having what they call IoT, or Internet of Things devices, and that can create some security issues, but they can still be managed. I'm not aware that of what Wellington Water's doing there, but it's something that we could follow up on.
Sure.
53, talking about violent attacks. I was wondering how prevalent is our use of CCTV and perhaps body cams?
Sam, do we need you back to the table, please?
Through the chair, I might make one comment. I sign up for all the CCTV forms for police, and I have to say that's a regular occurrence. I don't know whether I go a week without signing that off. So the police are actively using our CCTV footage to follow up on crimes and issues in our CBD.
Yes, through the chair, I support the comments. So we generally don't have an active CCTV monitoring approach. It's very much reactive following an incident. And in terms of body cams, some of our staff have them, the likes of animal control, and I can't recall if parking officers also, but those are really where they're isolated towards.
Thank you, Councillor Duncan. Councillor Leggett.
Just following up on Councillor Trillin's questions, just to reflect, Jim, you're saying to us, this is in terms of the major infrastructure failure and the uplift in terms of from yellow to orange, which I completely agree with. But what you're saying to us is that you're undertaking further analysis, or Mike will be, in terms of discussions with Wellington Water in terms of the things we know, and that will be fed back to councillors over over the coming months.
Through the chair, Councillor Leggett, that's correct, through workshops and
Okay.
I think Mike has got planned. This is something that we had the CE and representatives from Wellington Water here on Tuesday, and it's fair to say that not just Mike but other members of the executive want to be in a better position to be able to articulate the risks and the implications of what's happening in our network to councillors. I think we have a role to do that. And yes, so there will be follow-up engagement and feedback to council.
Can I say, just in response to that, I think all councillors would be very grateful to be able to get further information about that because, often, even with my background, I feel that I'm sort of in the dark in terms of some of these things that we should know. Yeah, thanks.
Councillor Waddle.
Just further to that point, is there a channel to have risks from our external or COOs, council control, CCOs, reporting back to the Audit and Risk Committee? I think to get
We do.
to get their understanding of what their risks are, I think better articulated and brought to us.
So, Councillor Waddle, through the chair, Councillor Waddle. So for example, currently we have for the envelope of funding that we have for the Wellington Water investments, we have received recently a summary of risks associated with that funding envelope. But I would have to say it's rather difficult to get your head around because it's not fully clear as to what are the potential mitigations, what's the severity. It's literally a list of risks. So really what we're doing here is we want to dig in behind that. It's not being presented to us in a way that we think is consumable for councillors. So yes, that's exactly where we're going.
Yeah, and I think just to further to Councillor Leggett's point around being in the dark around it, I think, and our residents probably feel a little in the dark about the information that we can give at times. I think it would be good to really strengthen that relationship, as you've alluded to.
Yeah, through the chair, look, my previous experience in working in large complex utility networks, in some respects a lot more complex than this one, but they all have a fundamental similarity in terms of they function as a network and you think about them as a network. And you tend to think about not just the risk to avoid things occurring, but what you can do to mitigate the risk. So, and that's an engagement that must happen between effectively your supplier and you as a client, because there's things that we could do, and some of these ways of operating are quite advanced in other utilities, and I'm not seeing that here.
Councillor Waddle, I think it's a really good point that you raise. My experience with other audit risk committees in the local government sector is that they regularly at the Audit and Risk Committee get a summary update, generally from the Audit and Risk Committees of the CCOs. I would suggest that management look into that and see whether, it doesn't necessarily need to be each meeting, but on a regular basis get an update perhaps from the Audit and Risk Committee at Wellington Water in particular. And whether that could come, and I think that could help assist understanding that risk through that entity better at this table. So.
And through the chair, I just referred to infrastructure risks. Obviously, there's other risks that they are managing and running their business. So yes, I agree.
Felicity.
Just a question around the public health event and the risk rating at unlikely, and whether that's been affected by the change in the major infrastructure one. Just looking at the relationships between the different ones.
Is that facility?
So public health risk is rated as unlikely, and I was just with the thinking around the elevation in the major infrastructure one and natural disasters at likely. Those two are, related risks. So on page 44, where it has the related risks for public health, a public health event, major infrastructure failure and natural disaster are related risks. So it's the connectedness between the risks that I'm interested in, and whether you're still comfortable with public health event being unlikely.
Through the chair, that's a very good observation. And we do actually know that if you have failing infrastructure,
Yeah.
and we had enough people in here during deliberations to tell us that that it's not just the absolute risk, it's also the community's appetite to accommodate things that we used to tolerate many, many years ago. So that's a good observation. I invite other councillors to comment on that.
Well, I would have agreed with you, it should be high, because we know when a pipe goes, and they go really quickly, usually when we're asleep. So I would have increased that personally.
Thank you, Felicity. Councillor Leggett.
I wouldn't want to make that decision in here. We're just doing it off the hoof. Interesting comments, but it needs a little bit more deliberation. I'm not sure whether I would upgrade it, but I mean, it's
Agree,
point.
agree, Councillor Leggett. I think it's a point well made that can be taken away and looked at. And I've got two other items in that category that I think next time the strategic risk framework is looked at could be looked at. And under the sector, the sector risk. I think across the country, these preparations of the current long-term plan have demonstrated that many councils, and I think certainly Porirua City Council is impacted by this, is the sustainability with rates being the only significant funding source. With increasing demands or spend on infrastructure, we've just heard. What impact that has. And I think the follow-up also in the public health event, as Jim indicated last week at TPK, indicated that we should be aware of the ocean and not just the harbour. There's a lot of focus in there on the health and well-being of the harbour, but I think also the surrounding ocean needs to be perhaps mentioned in there. So just a couple of items together with Felicity's to look at the next update. Any further discussion? Just demonstrates how valuable this document is and how important it is that it's regularly updated, considered, any movements within the framework are discussed and noted. So excellent work. So it's been moved and seconded that we receive this report. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, carried. Thank you, Phyllis, and again, don't go away. Agenda item 7.4, the 6 monthly legislative compliance work. We have been asked to receive that report. I'm happy to move that. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Trillin. So again, Phyllis, please just highlight this work for us.
Kia ora, Chair. The 6 monthly legislative compliance is an attestation by management about how well they're complying with legislation and reporting any non-compliances. So just really briefly, all matters of non-compliances reported has appropriate management oversight or governance oversight, I think, and there's mechanisms in place for that reporting. I think that's the main thing to highlight in terms of the results of this report.
Thank you, Phyllis. Any questions, comments, discussion on this? Councillor Duncan.
On page 57, it talks item 4, one non-response. So that's okay just to leave that one and not follow it up at the time, is it?
To the Chair, yes, that one non-response, as noted, in future situations, I would ask the acting person to report on that, but I don't think that there is in that area any significant matters that has not been highlighted.
One other question?
Certainly, Councillor Duncan.
On page 60, the date at the top of that compliance matters for current, it's pretty good going.
Sorry, I missed that. Can you just... Oh, right, right, yeah.
On page 60, resource management, it mentions the discharges of wastewater, but there's no mention of odour controls at the landfill and the wastewater treatment plant. I would have thought that was a concern.
So you're pointing out you're surprised that that hasn't come up in the legislative compliance exercise. Yeah, yep.
Through the chair, order control did come up in the last quarter, and although not fully resolved, it's resolved in the sense that there are activities in place. So I think in the next page around closed matters, that's still there. In terms of no new infringement notices and an order control plan is in place.
Yeah, but there's no mention of actually not being able to find the source of those odours at the landfill. Yep. That is a risk, isn't it? Yep. Thanks.
Just acknowledging Councillor Duncan's point about one person not being available to, respond to this survey and not being followed up. My experience is that this particular tool and this exercise does work well when you get a reasonably full response rate. And can I say 38 out of 39 is far better than most of what I see around the country. So, you do get value with the use of the tool when you've got a really high response rate. So, as I say, while acknowledging that one person wasn't available and wasn't followed up, it's pretty good. Jim.
Through the chair, there was a second question that I think remained. You would like to repeat that, Councillor Duncan?
Oh, no, was that the odour control? I think that was pretty well answered.
Okay, thank you.
Felicity.
I was just going to ask about the one non-response. Was it a material area? Is it a part of the compliance that you're worried about, or are you comfortable with where things are at?
Just to share, yes, I'm comfortable where things are at.
Just through the chair, would you like to explain which area?
It's in the policy planning and regulatory area.
No further discussion. It's been moved and seconded that we receive this report. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary carried. Thank you, Phyllis. 7.5, the Investment and Liability Management Quarterly Report. Okay. We've been asked to receive this report, so I'm happy to move in that regard. It's been seconded by Councillor Duncan. I understand Jim's going to introduce this and supported with Graham. Graham, welcome to the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So this is at the 31st of March, where we are fully compliant with all of the aspects of the investment and liability management policy. That was actually adopted on the 21st of March by Council. Just looking at the current results, we are still fully compliant, so that you know that. And so I'll hand it to Graham to perhaps just raise any points you want to highlight.
Thank you. Through the chair. Good morning, everyone. As Jim's mentioned, we're fully compliant as at March. What I need to do now, though, is I need to update the debt profile, because at the moment we're using the draft LTP debt profile, and there will be some discussions on that in the next paper. So that's what needs to be done. So that's some work. The other thing is that there was some transactions which were transacted through the month, which I've highlighted on para 7. And the only other thing which I'd mention is that we have taken out a facility with the Bank of China. As at March, we did not place any money with them, but in April we did. We placed for 5 million, which is part of our pre-funding for our debt maturity for 25. So it's just bringing that through.
Graham, it may be helpful just to sort of go on and say that Bank of China is fully registered and accepted bank in New Zealand. It's the New Zealand branch you're dealing with. It's not some branch or headquarters outside of the country.
And through the chair, just to give some indication, we're getting extremely high interest rate. I think it's about 6.2% on our deposit, which is a reasonable differential between our borrowing rate. So it's quite attractive for that reason.
Councillor Leggett.
I don't know whether it's the right place to bring it, but I recall previously, so we don't have in here, or have I missed it, average cost of funds? Just in terms of what's happening with that trend of average cost of funds?
I've got some numbers in my head. Councillor Graham, do you have that? It's through the chair. It's in the order of about 5.3%.
And trending? I mean,
it's fairly stable because the OCR is stable at the moment. Obviously, our outlook is that interest rates will come down, and that is implied in our profiles for expectations.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing is that we're just being a little bit cautious about how much debt we take out longer term because of the impending water reforms, where we're going to have to be transitioning debt off our books, and we really don't want to lock ourselves into long-term debt more than we have to at this point, and that's reflected in the debt profile that we've got in terms of fixed interest.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. This is a sort of backward-looking report, principally to ensure that we're in compliance with the policies at the end of March. So, thank you for that. It's been moved and seconded that we receive the report. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, carried. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Graham. The chair, there was a chair oversight at the beginning of the meeting. Forgot to welcome our external auditors, Sam Nicole and Karen Wright. So somewhat belatedly, if I could welcome the two of you, as always, to the Audit and Risk Committee. We're now at the agenda item, the interim audit status update. Thank you, Peter. Welcome to the table. I will move that we will receive this report of the interim audit update status. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Waddle. Peter, thank you. Just highlight this work for us, please. And then we'll ask Sam to comment.
So we had the auditors in March and April to do our interim audit. You can see from the report that it's largely on track. They did identify a couple of issues with our rates data. As a result of that, we've done a review, particularly around the water meters, and we have identified an issue that affected a small number of ratepayers. We are in the process of rectifying that and contacting those that were affected.
Thank you, Peter. Sam, just before I open it up for discussion, anything further to add, particularly on that rates issue you came across?
Thank you, Chair. Now, look, really pleased with progress and where we are. The amber on rates reflects that there'll be a little bit of work in response to what we've worked through with management at our final audit visit that wasn't anticipated in our original planning. And the only other call out in our paper is, periodically assets are valued. Management's been through a process and reconfirming who the valuers would be. It's on the critical path for the audit, so gets due mention in our report.
Thank you, Sam. Questions, comments? This is Councillor Leggett.
Sorry, you alluded to water meters and the issue. Can you be more specific or?
Through the chair. So the issue with the water meters is when a ratepayer goes onto a water meter, it's a manual process to then go and take the water charge off their rates invoice. So there are a couple of instances where a customer's gone onto a water meter and they were still getting invoiced water through their rates. So it mainly only affects commercial customers because residential ratepayers aren't on meters.
Councillor Duncan.
Some residential are, aren't they?
Through the chair, yes, there are some residential customers that are on water meters, but it's very few.
Councillor Philo.
Through the chair, so just to clarify, were the ratepayers charged twice for the water? Is that what you were
Yeah,
saying?
that's correct.
And that was the issue with the rates in the audit. That's why it's in amber.
Yeah, so there was a couple of issues around data. One was this one where there was an instance where someone was charged twice. Our work program includes working with management to understand the wider impact of that, but that work was ongoing from our perspective.
Was it a significant amount of money for the difference?
So overall, we identified 17 ratepayers where that was the case, and the total dollar impact is $13,000.
Excellent example of audit and their independent looking, finding something, and then working with management to identify the extent of it and sort it out. And that's how the process should work. So pleased to see that it does. Any other comments? All right, so interim audit, final's not far away. So Sam and Karen, at this point, we wish you well with the final audit, and we look forward to seeing you sort of back here in October to sort of report on the completion of the audit. So it's been moved and seconded that we receive the interim audit status update. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary carried. Agenda item 7.7, update on the long-term plan for 24 and 34. This is a huge piece of work that's been undertaken over the last 12 months by Council. We have been asked to receive the report and note the progress made on the long-term plan and the associated risks and issues identified. So I have pleasure in moving that. It's been kindly seconded by the Mayor, shall I hand to you, Jim, in the first instance, and welcome Ian to the table. Good to see you again, Ian, and welcome back, Graham. So thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the first thing is that this paper is an update since our deliberations on the 6th of June and does reflect those changes and amendments. Sam will comment on progress shortly. There's a few things I think that we want to just raise. So on the 11th of June, NZTA came out and as part of their announcements about fixing more potholes, we've seen a fairly significant increase in some subsidies that they're providing to us. And so I just want to work our way through that and what the implication is, and that will be included in the final Council LTP report. We're going to keep this pretty simple, and we've got a couple of we've got a handout for you. I think it's double-sided. Right. Okay. So what's actually happened here is so let me explain. We are effectively receiving upwards of $4 million additional subsidy each year for pothole maintenance and general maintenance of our roads. And that has an interesting effect on our debt headroom. So the way it works is that, and we've modelled this over 10 years, so we're assuming there's an ongoing commitment to increasing the pool of funds if there was a change in government, that pool of funds could get shifted around. But so we, in receiving an extra $3 or $4 million a year, we're effectively getting a uplift or getting higher because it's treated as the subsidies are treated as a revenue on our revenue line. Your net debt to revenue ratio, which determines our debt headroom, actually benefits us. So we're getting just these graphs. So the red line was the original position in the our model at the time of the deliberations. The blue line is where it's fallen to. Now, to give you a little bit more context, so the difference is in the order of around about $11 to $15 million a year. So that's quite significant. We do work to a policy of 255% in terms of 2.55 times net debt to revenue, not 2.8. So we're a little bit more conservative, and you'll understand a bit more when we get to the insurance paper later. But so this is a good outcome for us, to be frank. I think those are the main things. On the other thing, so if we go to the rates chart, just ignore the dotted blue line at the beginning, which there really is no impact on rates, because this funding that we're given, we have to actually match the funding, so we have to spend more to get it, but it's net neutral. So from a debt financing point of view, it's neutral entirely. What the team have done here is at the latter end of the LTP, or the 10-year period, we've been able to drop rates somewhat, and this might be somewhat academic. It is 10 years out, but in the last sort of 3 years, we can drop the rates to reflect the fact that we're not up against that debt headroom as we were before. And if you go back to the first page, you'll see the debt headroom doesn't peak until the end of the 10-year period. Previously, it was in year 5. So, very helpful.
Yeah. Great to have some positive news, isn't it? In the whole preparation of this plan, it's been on short supply, so that's great. Ian or Graham, anything further you would like to add before we open it up for questions and discussion? Graham?
No.
No. All right. Open for discussion. Councillor Philo.
Just want to follow on from what Jim was talking about. With the $4 million being treated as revenue, and I know it doesn't have an impact. You said it doesn't have an impact on rates, but rather the headroom for our debt. Will that also then mean, since our debt headroom is lowered, that we won't be paying as much interest expense? So that will help to lower even more in terms of operational expenditure?
Graham, you're welcome to.
Through the chair, the net impact to council is we're only slightly better off in cash position. So because we get more subsidy, but we have to spend them more to get that subsidy. So it's almost cash neutral. It's slightly positive, so it doesn't actually change the debt number too much.
So it won't affect the interest expense by much?
Only minorly.
Minorly, okay.
Yeah.
Good question, though. I thought there was some good logic there. So, you know, that if you look at this graph and the debt's going down, it's fair to assume that there might be an impact on interest. So, but this is just the headroom, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, I guess through the chair, I mean, what it does do, if you're not up against your debt cap, it means that if we had an emergency and we had to go above it, and we had to raise more capital, if we're sitting below that debt ceiling, then we get back to that equation that we gave you some time ago in terms of, a little bit of extra capital investment, say a $10 million investment would be back to 1% increase in rates, as opposed to factors of 3.
Councillor Lega.
Just an observation. Absolutely, that's good news. I guess the cynic in me, looking further out, because this will be the third time we've sat around the table and I've seen the graphs going down at the end. It never happens. Sorry.
So through the chair, I just
Wisdom of experience.
through the chair, I that's why I said this is potentially academic towards the end. I agreed.
Jim, sorry, Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, just a question on the risks on page 80, item D, cost of insurance, bulk water, etc. Water forecast to increase by 61%. Were we aware of that? I haven't seen that figure before.
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah.
I can answer that question through the chair. That's the combination of 2 years compounded. It's for next year, it's 27.3 or thereabouts, and for the current year, it was also 20%. It was over 20%. I can't quite remember the exact number, but when you take the two combined and then it's compounded, it comes to that 60-odd%.
Can we up the rate that we charge regional council for doing their billing for them then, maybe?
Thank you, Councillor Duncan. Yeah. Can I just ask either you, Jim, or Ian, can you just outline the process? So you've reflected the changes brought about by the NZTA confirmation of their funding. So what's the process now for the next sort of 2 weeks to get it to council on the 27th?
Through the chair, I'm going to ask my CFO to explain that.
Through you, Chair. So we're currently working with our audit partners to get it through the various hurdles that are required there, through the hot review, the ORC review, and ensure that they have the necessary information and updates that we've been working on. As you can imagine, the modelling on this is fairly intense, and I'd like to just congratulate Graham on the intense amount of effort required in that space. So that we are working closely with Sam and his team to make sure that transition goes well and that all questions are answered in as timely manner as possible, because there is intense timeline pressures at the moment. But I think we're in a good shape. We have the model. We have all of the collateral that falls out of the model ready and waiting now, as of, I think, literally 2 days ago. So it's literally that hot off the press. And we're ready to go for the meeting on the 27th, where the final approval will be sought from council, and then very, very shortly thereafter we will be able to publish but also strike the rates. Without that decision on the 27th, we will not be able to do that. So that's the intense timeline that we're facing at the moment.
Thanks, Ian. Can I specifically answer sort of what date are you aiming for to get that final LTP document out ahead of the council meeting? The reason for asking that is, could I ask that you make that available to Felicity and myself as well, so that we can see that final document? And
we can absolutely do that. And I'm pretty sure we're aiming for Thursday next week. Is it?
Yeah, I can't.
I see a nodding in the back row. So it's
first. Okay.
Right. That's the Thursday, is it? Friday. Yep. So we're aiming for Thursday, out to you on Friday.
Yeah. Because I think myself, as representing the Audit Risk Committee, will probably be asked to attend council, and I've got it in my schedule and comment on the work that we've done. So, to have it at the same time would be appreciated. Thanks,
Great.
Ian.
Yes.
Any councillor?
Thanks, Chair. Can I just ask for some clarity around risks? And you're saying that uncertainty relating to the LTP are likely to remain until after adoption. Many of these risks are risks after adoption of LTP, because the things that worry me in here are things like under inflation and talking about infrastructure, forget about insurance and all the rest of it, but limiting our ability to complete planned works, that's a worry in terms of what we've got in our LTP, which is significantly reduced from what was originally planned in the LTP. And the other worrying thing is the cost of large-scale projects like the wastewater storage tanks, which we already have a contingency in, and that worries me significantly that, we're, I guess we're just acknowledging it, but if it comes to fruition, then that's something really significant for us to worry about.
Through the Chair.
Thanks, Jim.
These are pretty general statements. We're not saying that we have identified new risks. So we're just saying, look, councillors, be aware that obviously these things are being talked about. We're aware that we've had some surprises. That's not to say we may have some in the future, but we're not aware of any at this point.
All right, excellent work to date on this very challenging exercise. Just before I wrap it up, Sam, any comments from you as to progress, any sort of roadblocks you see in you sort of hitting the 21st and 27th dates?
Cool. Thank you, Chair. To Councillor Leggett's point, the future is inherently uncertain. Our work includes assessing the reasonableness of the assumptions about the future that management has, and we think that they're well founded for the circumstances, but we can't all overlook that no one's got a crystal ball. In terms of progress, though, we are on track. These things come together in a bit of a bluster. The recent Waka Kotahi funding, which management's processed, was not on the original path, but always a possibility, and obviously the correspondence with Wellington Water on their costing as well has resulted in recent changes. The graphs you're seeing today we have, and the latest model that underpins them, so our work's ongoing. At the moment, we're on track for the 21st. We need to be mindful of any new information that might be material to the LTP. The one most top of mind is just the Eastern Porirua funding. So councillors will recall our consultation document just highlights that there's a unfunded portion in the out years that's assumed to be available. Should there be new information before you adopt the LTP, we need to go through a task of so what. Our opinion is expected to be unqualified, and we'll have the 3 emphasis of matter paragraphs that we had in the consultation document at this point. And they relate to capital deliverability as you scale up the level of capital work required over the LTP period, the quality of information used to inform the asset decisions, which is mainly age-based, and Eastern Porirua, which I just referred to. So we're well placed. There's some work to do, getting great support from management and really clear on what's between us and the end.
And no difficulties with the processes through with the Auditor General's office, so that's all in hand, is it?
So we have a plan. We've got agreement on the matters that we brought forward. Should there be no material change in information, they've asked all the councils that work with Wellington Water to come back on those particular costing issues, but we think that they're well understood by us and management to see that as being straightforward. And I'd just caution, the one thing we can't control is you've got many other peer councils with a mind on concluding by the end of the month. So, whether matters come out of theirs, which the OAG queries is relevant to Porirua, or just their bandwidth to work through these things are sort of 2 possible challenges that might emerge. But won't stop us seeking to hit the timelines we've agreed.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, team. Fantastic effort to date. Really, really trying circumstances. Best wishes in the final stretch through to the 21st and 27th. And I'm sure the management team are keen to get back to BAU and remove from their radar the initials LTP. So it's been moved and seconded that we receive this report and we note the progress. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, carried. Right, agenda item 7.8. Thank you, Jim, which is the final report from New Zealand Transport Agency, Waka Kotahi, on their investment audit undertaken earlier this year. We've been asked to receive this report, so I'll move in that regard. Seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Waddle. Jim, thank you, and Phyllis for the paper. Perhaps an introduction as to, because we have seen this before, but in draft.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, look, I want to emphasise a few things. If you had read as I know you will have, read the report carefully, we made a very strong point in this paper to be quite fulsome in our management comments. So we received the draft audit, I think it was around February, Phyllis, this year. It had some factual inaccuracies in it, and particularly in relation to prior audit items being open. We have provided that feedback with other commentary to Waka Kotahi or NZTA auditor. They haven't reflected that in their document entirely, and so I would like to say that they will come back in 6 months. This is not my experience normally of having a draft report and then a final report that doesn't reflect updates, but it is what it is. And we do have to accept that there was some, rather untimely responses to the auditor that probably created this in the first place. But if you read through the audit, it's actually we've got this well under control.
Thank you, Jim. Anything further, Phyllis, from you on this?
I could perhaps add that I've been spending a lot of time and focus with management around addressing matters legitimate matters that have been raised, and management as well has been very cooperative and taking this very seriously. And I think I'm getting quite good assurances from management that we wouldn't be in this situation again, that we would be fully prepared in terms of our response to audit.
Thank you, Phyllis. I must admit, personally, I was somewhat nervous in preparing for this meeting as to whether this report may impact on future funding of NZTA. So in our previous agenda item, it's great to see that that's been confirmed at least for the next 2 or 3 years, and it doesn't appear to be impacted by this report. Also, I'd like to say I think that that's a great outcome of a difficult situation, that they're coming back in 6 months' time to have an update and make sure that their recommendations are being addressed. But open for further questions, comments and discussion. Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, it's more a comment than a question. It's now I noted that we did have a number of shortcomings on our side, but I think the robustness of the officers' report back to them was fantastic, and good effort on that.
Much appreciated, Councillor Duncan.
No further questions, comments. This is an important exercise that NZTA Waka Kotahi will undertake on a regular basis. It's important. Some good learnings, as Councillor Duncan has pointed out, and I'm sure the process will run much smoother through the management effort next time. So it's been moved and seconded that we receive this final report. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, carried. Members, we now have one item to be considered in the public excluded part of our meeting. So I'll move a motion that we go into public excluded and that Sam Nicole and Karen Wright from Ernst & Young be permitted to remain in the meeting as they have an interest in this agenda item. So do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Duncan. Moved and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, carried.